All right, good morning, everybody. As always, thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself. Most importantly, to get your mindset reps in here to start your day off the right way and just to plug in with your community. This is your community, guys. So it's good for everybody to see your faces, be reminded of who's in here. Maybe it's a reminder to reconnect with some people off of the call. But as always, I'm very grateful to see you guys invest your time in yourselves and in the harvest to be here. So with that being said, as always, guys, remember, try not to multitask. 7 to 8, leave the work stuff for after the call. I do not want you to miss something that can help you today. And also, as maybe you're hearing dialogue through this, write down some questions, right? We're bringing in some very high-performing entrepreneurs. And man, I do not want you to leave this call with an unanswered question. And we all know after that, it's about the execution. But please get every ounce of value out of these calls. Whatever it is, there's no stupid questions. Chances are I'm going to want to know the way he answers it. So please make sure to be dialed in, write down your questions, and let's fully plug in here. So with that being said, our next guest speaker is a friend of mine who I've developed a relationship over the past couple years. And just, he was already at a high level when I met him, but to see his growth within a year of following him has just been unbelievable. And then on top of that, he started with a friend of mine, Brad, the Warriors for Christ community, which is where we kind of really got into another level of relationship, of friendship, and also how I got to get an even more inside look of his leadership and his white belt mentality to grow in his faith, and then how he tied that into his business. And, through that, I've got to see him also have events where he hosted John Maxwell, to where he had private time with John Maxwell. And there's so many skill sets, guys, that I think he can help you with that are very valuable, that I've seen him do at a very high level. And on this call, we're going to talk about leadership, right? We're going to talk about communication. I wrote down a bunch of questions because this is very important to me. On top of that, a little background on Brian. He's the founder of the Top Contractor School, where, Brian, you can elaborate on this, but from what I understand, man, you coach and train and help scale a bunch of, you work with a bunch of contractors throughout the nation and help them grow their business. And then also he's the founder of the Pavement Group too, which he'll elaborate on. But he does a lot of things, guys, at a high level, and I'm very excited to bring him in to help you guys and to break whatever mental barriers you have, whatever answers you need to break free to that next level of your business. So, Brian, thank you so much for hopping in the harvest, man. I appreciate you taking your morning to be with us, man. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great, and grateful to be here. You touched on it, man, but just grateful that all of you guys took the time out of your morning to show up here, man. And I know sometimes in these groups, I'm a part of them too, and sometimes it can get like, oh, it's just another thing on the schedule. And, my best advice to you is keep showing up, man, because you never know when that person's going to show up that has a piece of information that's going to change your business, change your life. And you never know when that next person's going to join the group, or a person that's been around forever is going to, connect with you on a different level, and it changes everything, right? The only two things that will change your life and business is knowledge and people. And of course, execution, but relationships and knowledge are it, man. And so good for you guys for showing up here this morning. And I don't, transparently, I don't do many of these anymore because, frankly, I don't always believe in the people or the groups that ask me to do it, right? And so the fact that Devin asked me to do this, grateful for the opportunity, man, and humbled to be here and pour into the people. Your people are my people, man. And anything that I can do to help in the next, however long we're going to be on here and beyond that. If you guys, have a question that you have after we're done here, please don't hesitate to ask. Reach out. I'll give you my phone number. You can call, write, whatever you need to do to get your questions answered. So
awesome. Thank you, Brian. So can you explain kind of what your businesses are, just so everybody kind of has an understanding? And we could talk about the Top Contractor School and then the Pavement Group, and then we'll go into the leadership conversation.
Yeah. So Top Contractor School, I don't know what the number's up to now. The last time I checked, it was around 650 contractors who have been through our programs in one way, shape, or form. So I started that about 5 years ago. Top Contractor School really is kind of a close relative to the Pavement Group. You know, the Pavement Group is a nationwide asphalt and concrete company. We service, you know, most of the large brands that you would know, where you shop, where you bank, where you pump your gas. We probably do their parking lots or help them in some kind of way. Most of those large brands do business with us or have done business with us at some point. Our real edge there is that we're a technology driven organization. So we've developed technology that helps these large portfolios of properties analyze and execute the millions and millions of dollars that they spend on asphalt and concrete, to be able to spend that better and to be able to have visibility into the hundreds and in some cases thousands of properties that they manage. And that has really given us an edge. So we've leveraged technology to be able to bring the facts and data in front of the clients that make it easy for them to make a decision and easy for them to spend money, and obviously, hopefully spend money with us. That's the whole purpose of it. But Top Contractor School was created to really support those. We subcontract 100% of our work. So through social media, through marketing, we've built a network of contractors, around 1,200 around the country, that do asphalt, concrete, seal coating, striping, anything to do with parking lots. And my mission from day one was to be a company that was different by giving back to those contractors that sacrifice for us, right? They go out and look at the jobs, they bid the jobs. They are really cultural members of our team. And so, you know, how do we value them? How do we place value on those contractors and not just talk about valuing them, but really exhibit it? And so I created Top Contractor School to be able to take the knowledge that I had at that time, was, you know, really mostly in leadership, sales, and marketing, and be able to help these local guys that run, you know, local businesses, most of which came from the field and just, you know, said, I'm tired of working for this bum that I'm working for. I'm going to go start my own thing. And they never really got a good look at sales, marketing, leadership in a lot of cases. And so Top Contractor School was kind of, you know, my way of giving back to them. It has really become my ministry over the last 5 years, you know, being able to mentor people and be a friend to people and, you know, get to know them, their families, their children. As Devin mentioned, we do 2 retreats per year. So the next one we have is coming up in June here at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. Last one was at the Diplomat in Hollywood, Florida. So we had John Maxwell and Brad Lee at the last one. I won't share who's coming to the next one just yet. You know, that's top secret, but yeah, we try to do everything that we can, man, to grow those businesses. And, you know, proud to be able to say that, you know, we've played some kind of part in taking businesses from, you know, $3 million that were 20 years old. And in, you know, 3 or 4 years now they're doing $20 million. And in my own business, man, I've taken it, you know, we just turned 5 years old on March 28th this year. You know, I mean, we're way up into the 8 figures now and approaching 9 figures in the next, you know, by next year for sure, we'll be in the 9-figure revenue realm. And yeah, it's been a ride, man. And so, you know, it's my greatest joy in the world, man, to get to share the things that other people have shared with me, right? All the knowledge that I've collected, some of it's through those books you see behind you, but a lot of it is through conversations of people that took the time out of their lives to pour into me. And so for me, Top Contractor School, doing things like this, it's the greatest joy that I get to be able to pay it forward. And I would challenge all of you guys to have that same mentality, right? Whenever you learn something, pay it forward. You know, for every person that you teach, you never know what that ripple effect is. And so that's our mission here on earth.
No doubt about it. Now, you mentioned a few things as far as like a business model. You were like, you know, what happens is we find, let's just say, somebody who goes off, starts their own company, and, you know, they just can't figure it out, and they need that leadership, right? They need the systems, the processes, the marketing. And, you know, one question that I would like to ask you is, I'm sure you run into a lot of entrepreneurs who left a specific company. What are like the commonalities of why people leave bad leadership? Because I'll never forget this line: people don't leave the company, they leave the leadership, right? And what do you find are the most common reasons why a lot of your people that you partner with leave other companies? And what were those like kind of ways that they just weren't doing leadership the right way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to, leadership and culture are very close relatives, right? And so, when you work for a company that doesn't have great culture, that there could be the leader encourages gossip, right? Where people are constantly talking about each other. It's a bit of a toxic environment. The leader is selfish, right? You see the leader, running around, got 2 boats, 3 race cars, but nobody can get a 25 cent an hour raise, right? Those are scenarios that happen quite a bit. It's something as simple as the leader doesn't listen well or doesn't take feedback well. There's no vision, right? The vision isn't big enough. This is a big one. The easiest place for me to acquire employees from is a company that doesn't have a big enough vision for all the dreams of the employees to fit within it. One of the things that I always say is we want to hire entrepreneur type minds in our business, which most people are afraid of because they think somebody's going to come in, take all the information that you give them, and then they're going to leave and start their own business. Well, that's only true. And you should only have that fear if your culture is substandard and, people aren't going to get enough out of it to want to stay, because you don't have to control people to have productive people. And that is, it's something that's common in business that, well, I need this person here from, 8 to 5 and they can't do anything else. And they're not going to, it's like, man, some of the brightest minds in the world, man, have something else going on that they're really passionate about. So Vinny's a good example. The guy that painted this painting behind me, he super talented, man. He does cleats and shoes for the NFL guys, on the My Cause, My Cleats weekends of the NFL. And, if I was a guy that tried to control that or take that away from him, it's something he loves doing, man. He loves sports. He loves interacting with it. He probably wouldn't work here. And what a shame that I would lose a talent like that, right? To over something meaningless. Ultimately, it's like, if it takes a little bit of time away, do you think that Vinny never works in the evenings or on the weekends for us? Right. We had over 100 people at the Pirate game last week. And dude, we worked from 8 a.m. till, we were out till 2 a.m. Right. And so am I paying him for that time? Well, no, it all levels out, man. And if you hire the right people with the right souls, you don't need control over them in order to be successful, in order to be productive, and in order for people to give their best. And so I think we've probably all been in that situation where you look at the leadership, that's around you, above you, beside you, and you say to yourself, like, man, I don't know about this, right? Like, this doesn't feel right. Something's off. I just interviewed somebody yesterday that the idea I just shared with you guys about, the dream's not big enough. This girl loves her job. She loves what she does. She works for a nonprofit helping kids, doesn't want to give it up, but the nonprofit's not growing and it's not going anywhere. And so she's like, man, what do I do? Well, you certainly don't, flush your own dreams down the toilet because somebody else doesn't want to work hard anymore. Because the dream that was sold to that person when she entered that organization was, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then X, Y, and Z never happened and people gave up on it, right? People started to take their foot off the gas because success is a bad teacher, right? And so, for me, I coach these contractors all the time to say, if you want the best performers, you want the top performers in around you.
This is important. This is important stuff.
You cannot get comfortable with growth, man, because no sales guy, like in my business, if a sales guy wants to make $1 million a year, or that's the kind of, motivation, sales guy or girl wants to make that kind of money, well, you better be able to create an environment where they can do that, right? And you better not pump the brakes, or what's going to happen to that person? They're going to go away. And so you can't attract the best talent with a small lid, with a low lid, right? When the business starts to hit the lid, the top performers are going to be the first ones that start getting antsy and want to leave, right? But if the vision is big and broad, and there's a lot of places in your organization for people to be able to go, it's a great way to fuel growth, to get the best talent. We have right now in my office, there's a girl that has a doctorate in physical therapy that I met at one of our sales guys' housewarming party. Imagine this, man. I don't know how long that girl went to school, 7 or 8 years to become a doctor of physical therapy. And she quit her job to come work for a paving company in an entry-level position so she could learn the business. Now she's moving into sales. And the reason she was so interested in doing it is that I got a 24-year-old guy here who's been with me for 6 years, since he was 18 years old, that'll make $400,000 or $500,000 this year. And so this girl sees like, man, I've always wanted to be in sales. I can't really get into it in my own industry. This guy that's younger than me, that's just put in the work, right, is gonna earn this kind of income. And that's what attracts people. It's the opportunity. And by the way, that is not the case for everybody. I've got somebody that was my banker who has 2 kids in high school, who's super talented, but all she wants right now is to be in that same position, because that's what serves her life at this moment. Right. She needs balance, and she needs to be able to, kind of punch out at 5 o'clock and not have to worry too much. I mean, she still does stuff if she needs to, but the point being, create an environment where those people that you're trying to attract can thrive. And when you don't, those guys that I coach in top contractor school, they leave the company. And if a top performer leaves you, I hear people in leadership and entrepreneurs say this all the time, like, oh, the people won't sink you. One person won't sink you. Well, that's probably true, but make no mistake. And maybe this is a question for everybody. Anybody work for a company where a very top performer, like a high performing person, left? Dude, it hurts. And if you're attracting the right people, it should hurt when they leave. And so when you attract the right people, it forces you as a leader to create an environment and a culture where they can thrive and they can get to the next level. The other thing that I want to make note of is we do not have any legal paperwork that ties somebody to our company. I refuse to do it. We don't have non-competes. We don't have anything like that, because I believe, this is just my opinion, it doesn't mean you're wrong if you have them, but I believe that it makes leaders a little loose and lazy when it comes to creating a culture that's infectious, that keeps people. And so for me, all of our customers are at risk if I don't treat people right, if our organization doesn't treat people right. And I believe that not having that has kept our culture being what it is, because we can't hold people to the letter of the law. We can only hold people to the level of respect and admiration that they have for the company and for us as individuals that they would leave behind.
A few notes, guys, to write down, because I'm always wanting you guys to take these things and put into action. Think about like what he just said. Do you have a mission or a vision for your company that you're evangelical about, that you're telling your people about, that you're consistently sharing? Because if not, if the answer is no, that could be a bottleneck for you bringing in talent into your organization, right? So that's one thing to think about as you're on this call. You know what? I was on this call and I heard about the importance of having a big mission, having a big vision, making sure everybody knows about it, making sure I'm evangelical about it. And if you're not, now's the time to start, right? And think about that and put content, build content around that. And in our Warriors for Christ group, Pastor Anthony shared this one line. It says, you want to be a launch, it was like, you want to be a launch pad for your people and not a lid, right? And that's kind of when Brian was saying, like, he mentioned the term like being a lid, stopping people from their growth. That line kind of stuck out to me there. Brian, another question, because I have all these questions teed up because I know that's important to a lot of people in here. And guys, by the way, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hands. I see you guys doing some private messages to me, pumped up about the call. But feel free to raise your hand. A big issue, well, you hear it a lot, is about recruiting talent right now, Brian. So, the hiring, but, I can't find the right people, or it's hard to find people this day and age. Obviously, you're working with hundreds of companies who need to hire people. What tips or strategies can you give to bring in talent that you are seeing that are working? This is important for a lot of people in here.
Well, lucky for you guys, I just covered this at our top contractor school meetup last week. So I got some bullet points that I didn't prepare for this call, but I had prepared before this call that I'll share with you guys. And so one of the things that we're big on, and you'll see this about me and every company that I'm involved in, is, digital online presence and activity, right? And so I think that a lot of people get the idea of content wrong, or that, why they think people do it is actually incorrect. And so, for me, digital online presence is about a couple of things, and I'll break this down for you. And the end result is, because most people think you do it to acquire customers. And while that is a result of it, it's not the main reason. And there's one thing in here that's going to really get you guys that I think will light some fire this morning on a bright and early on a Wednesday morning. The number one reason to do content is to acquire new employees. It is to recruit people, to get people to understand who you are as a leader, why they should want to be a part of your organization. And it is done indirectly. It is not done directly. It's done by you literally talking about your values, your vision, why you got started, the adversities that you've been through, because all of those things that you do when you share content, I would argue that Devin and I have become better friends because I put out content that he relates to. Like, he sends me messages or comments on it every once in a while. And so I know that he's watching. And so through that, he's understanding who I am as a man, as a father, as a businessman, as everything that I stand for in my faith, right? It's not just the Tuesday night calls that Devin and I have got to know each other on. It's me consuming his content, him consuming mine. If I only knew the Devin that I see live, it would not be the same. And so the number one reason that you would want to create a digital and online presence is to acquire new employees and to put yourself out there. Because when you put yourself out there, what you're going to find is that you're going to attract who you are. You're going to attract people that believe what you believe, share the same values, share the same principles. Like, I'm a super positive person. So negative people, if they follow me online, they're like, no way am I working for this guy, right? Because they're not going to feel good working here, because it's an over positive environment. It's like kryptonite to those people, right? The second reason, and this is still related to recruiting, is to make sure that our existing employees are secure and being taught, being reinforced. What is the vision? What are the values? How are we supposed to live? How are we supposed to behave? How are we supposed to represent this company and brand, right? And so I never realized this. I had a podcast. I'm getting ready to relaunch it, but I had 536 episodes of this podcast that I did. And I had no idea how many of my employees were listening to it until I stopped doing it. So imagine this, 536 episodes. They were all being coached every day, right? And the consistency and frequency that I was doing that was helping to build this culture that we've built inside of my company. So the number one reason is to acquire new employees. The second one is to make sure that those existing employees, those people that you do recruit, are secure and being taught. Here's the one that I think will get you guys fired up. It's something that is very outside the box, but I think it's something that you'll be able to relate to. The biggest thing that has happened for me professionally by putting out content, both on our company page and my personal brand page, is that my competition has become obsessed with me and my company and what we're doing. And so let me teach you guys a quick lesson. When they're paying attention to you, they cannot grow. It's impossible for them to try to duplicate what you're doing and grow at the same time. The only thing they can do is try to catch what you did weeks ago, months ago, because that's what they're seeing, right? And so when you think about that, if you can get those people to be intimidated by you, because that's what it is, you become a threat to your marketplace. When you are consistent online, like one of my goals, Devin knows this, but I had a lawsuit 3 years ago that's still going on, right? One of them settled yesterday, by the way, Devin. We got $87,000 back in attorney's fees because we won. So 1 out of 2 so far. Go. But so think about this. This dude was trying to negatively impact me. And so it took me about 2 weeks to kind of get over the fact that this, I'd never been sued before. I'd never been in a legal battle. And so I was really rattled by it. And after 2 weeks, I mean, dude, this cat was trying to harass me online, trying to, go talk a bunch of smack in groups. I said, dude, I'm not going to sit here and take it. I'm going to put out so much content that this dude's like, I got to look at this cat again. Like, I want him to be so sick and tired of seeing my face and seeing a positive message and seeing, right? Because what's the only way to beat darkness?
Kill it with kindness.
It's light.
Or light. There you go.
And so if you are the light and the darkness is chasing behind you, they can't win, man. They cannot win. And so the more content you put out, the more success you start to have, the more positive messages you're sharing, the more you're going to attract the right people and detract the wrong ones. And you're going to have your competition paying attention to you, and they cannot grow and pay attention to you at the same time. Remember, every minute they spend watching you, they're losing. And that's what happens when you start winning. When you start winning, people become obsessed with how are they doing it? What are they doing? Dude, you know how many in my competition I follow? 0. Not one, because I don't care what they're doing. That's a fact. I don't care what they're doing, because all that's going to do is give me the tendency to want to copy them. We're all human. We see something, we may want to copy it. If we can stay away from that, we will create our own path. And so recruiting comes down to presence. How many people know you is how many people can refer people to come work for you. Doing things like this actually helps me recruit people, because you guys are going to know somebody that either lives in Pittsburgh or lives in one of the markets that we work in. And you're going to say, hey, I spent this hour with this guy in the morning. He seemed like a good dude. You should check his company out. And somehow, some way, somebody will come from that, right? And the last one, the fourth one, is just a result of the other 3. As a result of being present online, you can't not grow your customer base and grow your business. But it's not the intention. The intention is to attract the right people. You will absolutely also attract the right customers, most of them, right? Because you'll find those people that say, man, this company, this guy, this girl seemed like somebody I'd want to do business with. And so they get interested and they get connected and they start following. And eventually, this is the first time we went to a trade show last week in Dallas, Texas. We've only been around for 5 years. So the first 2 years was spent people saying, who? What do you guys do? Oh, okay. You're one of those companies. Now they come to our booth and say, you guys have a great reputation. We've heard a lot of great things about you. We want to talk to you, right? So the marketing, it's taken 5 years, guys, to flip the tables where people are pursuing us instead of us pretty much creating everything from scratch and pursuing them. But remember that. Become the company that everybody fears. At my company, we fear no one. Our competition fears us. And technology, social media, that presence, that repeated message that goes out, that is, authentic and real, but is absolutely convincing because of the frequency and consistency at which we put it out. This is who we are, right? And if you don't have a technology-driven process, meaning social media, technology platforms in your business that enable you to communicate at mass scale, you will have a hard time recruiting, retaining, et cetera, because companies like us are using AI, we're using digital marketing, we're using social media, we're using our website, Google Ads, all of the above to be able to dominate the marketplace. And so, but people get mistaken that it's meant to make somebody famous or it's meant to build somebody's significance. The only reason that I go online is to attract the very best talent. And if I can attract the very best talent, they'll bring all the customers here.
That's some powerful stuff right there. I have another question. When we talk about, I want to tie in some communication, but it still has to do with leadership, right? Let's just say somebody in your company isn't performing, right? Can you go into kind of like how a CEO or how a manager or how a leader should handle a performance-based conversation, right? Like getting someone to perform at a higher level or better, because let's just say they just haven't been doing well. Their sales weren't there. Like, how would you handle that situation? This is very important for everybody here because, hey, this may speak directly to you. Maybe you're in a slump and you need to get out of it, or you're in a leadership position. I know a lot of you own companies. This could be a powerful way to have growth conversations with your people.
Yeah, I think, and I just want to start by saying this. It took me many, many years, man, and lots of mentors to really get to this place where I'm at, where I can see it from a different angle, right? Where I can probably see the situation wider than I used to. And so what I would say is it starts with this: hire people that are good enough for you to care about. Because if you hire average people, doesn't matter how nice of a person you are, at some point from a professional standpoint, you're going to say the investment is not worth the return, right? The investment of what I have to do to help this person, is the return going to be there? That's where we get to. And that's when we start to say, is this person worth keeping, right? So from my seat, from sitting, as the CEO of this organization, the other thing I will tell you, for those who are in the same position, make sure that you're mentoring the leaders, that directly report to you, because your job is not to coach and train and mentor and correct every person in the organization. It's to make sure those people that report to you have the tools, have the knowledge, have the resources to be able to do that as well. And your job is to guide them through that. Maybe have a, preliminary conversation. Hey, how do you think this is going to go? What questions are you going to ask? How are you going to structure and frame this conversation? But when it comes to people, individually and the mistakes that they make, I ordered a giant sign for the front of our office when you walk in here that hopefully will be here soon. It says, "No perfect people work here." And I think it's important for all of us to realize that when people make mistakes, most of the time it's not intentional, and most of the time it's not relative to the business. Most of the time it's something going on outside the business that is negatively impacting their ability to show up as their best. And our job as leaders is to figure out what that is. And if we have a great culture, that happens naturally more often, but it's never going to happen all the time. And so what I've learned in the last few years, man, and Devin knows, one of my mentors, Jay Duran, has been an unbelievable resource for me in this regard. It's, when almost everything in life is opposite. When you feel yourself getting angry at a person, they probably need a hug. They probably don't need yelled at, or they don't need reprimanded, or they don't need a stern tone of voice to correct them. They probably need somebody to say, "Hey man, everything okay? Hey, everything okay at home? Everything okay with the kids? Anything we can do?" Because I'm telling you, 8, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find out that something is off outside of the office or outside of the business that's causing that. And so that's where we always start. To go a step higher than that, though, one of the things that we do, and I can share this with you guys, if I could pull it up on my computer, I'll drop it in the chat. We have a form that we use called How I Want to Be Coached. And it literally gives you a blueprint of this person. Like, what is their goals? What's important to them? How do they want to be talked to? What are their triggers? And we have people fill that out one time a year, because every year, man, you'll see people make such leaps in their career that things become less important to them. I'll give you an example. My business partner in the payment group, when I started working with him, I became his sales leader years and years ago. When I started working with him, he said, "Man, all I want to do is be the #1 sales guy in the company. I want to finish my basement and buy a new truck." Well, shit, man, he could have done that last month, right now. So that doesn't really make it relevant anymore. But when it comes to coaching people, it's knowing where they're at, knowing what the next step is. and not trying to sell them on too big of a dream that doesn't motivate them, but keeping them right in front of their face. The next step, the next step, the next step. Every day we should be pouring into these people. And if we're doing that properly, those conversations go a lot easier. But, you know, one of the things that I stand for is I say inside of our company, two things. Number one, offer people grace, especially when they don't deserve it. It inverts, you know, the value of leadership big time. When somebody expects, you know, to get ripped for something, and we show up with some compassion and grace, it does incredible things for the culture. And the result will be the same anyway. If you think that, you know, yelling at somebody or having a stern conversation is going to have a difference than, you know, just calmly delivering a message to them, it will not. And the other one, what was I going to say? So have grace, especially when you don't deserve it. Oh, and you know, be an organization that gives people too many chances, not enough. And listen, I got burned by this one just a few weeks ago, right? Gave some dude, you know, probably 15 chances and it didn't work out. But I can tell you this, and he did some damage in our organization on the way out, right? But I wouldn't do it any different because the next person might stay. And I'll give you guys some stats. In our organization since day one, so 5 years and a couple of weeks here, we've had 0 people quit. 0 people have actually resigned from this organization in 5 years, and we've only turned over 6 people.
Wow. That's incredible.
So think about that when you're thinking about that person. You sat across the desk from a person and said, this is the guy, this is the girl that we have to have working here. I believe in them. I want them to be here. Because if we don't do that, man, we don't take responsibility as leaders for our own actions, for our own shortcomings. What did we do wrong? We will never learn how we fell short with that person. And we'll repeat that process. And then turnover will go up. You'll never be able to recruit enough people to backfill the positions. It just becomes a turnstile, right, of constant turnover that you can't keep up with. And so my belief is that through these conversations, through offering people grace, maybe that don't deserve it, we learn a lot about ourselves by asking the right questions and really digging into how could we have done better. Instead of pointing the finger, ask the question, open your ears and listen. And you'll be surprised at the things that you can learn, because even that person that, you know, at the end, we view him as the worst employee ever. That person probably carries more valuable information that could help us grow as an organization than anybody that's your biggest fan.
Jeremy asked if he could see that. You could send it to me, or if, you know, if it's cool anyway.
Yeah, of course.
How to be coached for him. That, I mean, there's a lot of points that I've written down. Guys, again, just because I'm facilitating this call, I am the student just like you guys are. I'm sitting here writing down notes. I already know what I'm changing in my content, in my conversations. And a lot of these questions that I'm asking, I know are important to a lot of you because I hear what you're saying and I know where a lot of you are at, but also they're important to me, right? So I am asking these questions because I want to know the answers. And this is how I want you guys to come to these calls. Brian, so all this, and this is just for everybody, right? All this, like how to handle all these different situations, man, the amazing way that you communicate with your people, all this, you know, there's no turnover. This is how I would handle this. And I know you do this stuff at a high level. You're not just saying it, you actually do it, right? But I will say this, it is not, I want everybody to understand that, and Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't think that Brian wakes up every day in the absolute best mode, doesn't work on himself, doesn't try and get his mindset right before he walks in the door to get better at controlling external distractions that will take him off of being the leader the way he's telling you to be. So I'm going to wrap that up with Brian. What in order to execute like this, I know you have to do a lot of work on yourself to make sure you show up as your highest and best self, make sure you have a lot of energy, make sure you have the mindset to operate like this daily. Can you share with people kind of what you do to work on Brian Hess mentally, physically, spiritually each day, to show up, to be able to execute the way that you are executing, to where you're not in your emotion to do it the opposite way that you're telling people to operate?
Yeah, I
Sense?
think, man, you hit something there that's important is, routine and discipline allows you to function not out of emotion, out of routine and out of discipline, out of intention. And so, for many of us, the challenge is that what we see normally is a bunch of people around us functioning out of emotion, whether that be, our parents, how we were raised, the first leader that we ever worked for, the examples that we have around us, a lot of them are functioning out of emotion. So for me, it's a routine, it's a rhythm, and it's not, I am not going to tell you that, it's exactly the same every day. It's the same exact time. It's the same, we all get punched in the mouth. The first 3 months of this year have been absolutely brutal and difficult, right? Have been some of the most challenging. We've bought out a few partners in the last year at the payment group, which has, lowered our cash reserves and put us in a position where, for the first time in a few years, we had to really buckle down and focus and operate within a certain set of parameters to be able to get over that hump. But what I know is this, is that I know being organized, writing in my planner every morning, reading devotionals. I text Devin before we got on here and I said, hey, bro, I'm prayed up. I read some scripture. I put some Maxwell on the way into the office. I'm locked and loaded. I'm ready for you. And that is my routine. It's how I do it. You guys can't, I don't know if you can probably see that's one bookshelf. That's the other bookshelf. They haven't all been read, but most of them have. So for me, it is how I seek knowledge. I adjust what I'm reading based on the needs of the business, based on my needs personally, the needs of my marriage. I have 4 children on top of everything else that we're talking about. And so juggling all that, and that is our greatest responsibility, right? If I'm knocking the cover off the ball building a 9-figure business here, but I'm a shitty father, what's it all for? If I'm not, a top-notch husband, better than I am as an entrepreneur, then what am I doing here, man? Because that just makes me selfish. If I'm not pouring into my family more than I'm pouring into my business, right? I'm not there for my kids, setting a good example, being all of that. Then what is it all for to me personally, right? So for me, man, it is about routine. It's about discipline. It's about looking at the things that other people do. I would say my routine and how I show up is a collection of a lot of mentors that I've followed or interacted with or hired over the years, and taken those bits and pieces that I've found in those people. Because you can't just go duplicate what somebody else does. It doesn't work that way. You may not be somebody that's capable of waking up at 4 a.m. every day. I am, for the most part. I'm capable of waking up at 4:15, going to the gym, getting to the office by 7 o'clock and going about my day. Not always the case. If I'm under the weather, I've traveled a ton and I need some sleep, then I adjust that. But I would say find what works for you, but you got to work hard at that, man. It takes a long time to figure out what that rhythm is for you. And that word rhythm is important for you to realize. It's because when everything is wrong in the world, right? When you walk into work and you get punched in the mouth first thing in the morning, yesterday morning, I started my morning with an email from a client on a $1.7 million contract that said, you guys are in breach of contract. I said, well, shit, that doesn't sound good, right? That's not a way I wanted to start my Tuesday morning, that's for sure. But the rhythm and the routine and everything that I have built in my life enabled me to say, okay, how do I deal with this? What do we need to do? And the most proud I was is that I wasn't the person that solved the problem. My business partner, Mike, who in years past would have been like, dude, what do we do? Stepped to the plate, made the phone call, and it was solved within 45 minutes. And so think about that. It's the routine that you built. It's the armor that you put on every morning. for me, my armor is reading some scripture, praying, going to the gym, listening to audio books, John Maxwell, whatever it is. And dude, sometimes it's putting on some like old school gangster rap and jamming out on my way to work, because that's what I need, right? That's what is going to fuel me for that day. And it takes a long time of studying yourself to be able to figure out what that is. But understand, and then the other part is surrounding yourself with people like this, man, that when you're having a bad day, like I know for sure, and Devin and I don't talk all that often, but I know for sure that if I called that dude and I said, bro, some shit's on fire over here, he would be like, what can I do to help? And I have a lot of people like that in my life that can help me bring it back to center. And so that's my best advice, man. Surround yourself with people that aren't emotional, that don't operate out of emotions, that operate out of how do we get to the bottom of the problem, right? I always tell people, don't bring problems up in here, man, without a suggested solution, because that makes you a complainer. And it's the same in our own life. If all we do is worry and we don't come up with solutions, we're just an internal complainer, because you're not trying to solve the problem. Oh man, life sucks. What am I going to do? I'm going to run out of cash in the business. Well, dude, if you're going to run out of cash on the business, you better get stepping and get out on the street and go get some cash. Sitting at your desk worrying about it ain't going to do you any good. I use this example all the time, man, because I think it's so relevant. For those of you who are Christians, man, Jesus started with a small tribe, dude. And he said, listen, the people need to hear me. What'd he do? He said, people aren't listening to me here. I got to hit the street. Grabbed his sandals, boom, hit the road. Think about it. And look at what happened. It's belief, man. It's belief in yourself. It's getting back to center. It's operating out of discipline and action and not emotions. And it's easy. Listen, when I got sued 3 years ago, I started saying to myself, oh man, this is bad. This is bad. Like what? We didn't have any money at that time. This is not good. What am I going to do? How am I going to overcome this? And after 2 weeks, I called my business partner. I said, I figured it out, dude. He said, what's that? I said, the worst case scenario, if this guy can somehow prove that we are wrong, we're going to have to pay him about $500,000. He said, well, we don't have $500,000. I said, yeah, I know. You know what we're going to do? We're going to figure out how to make $500,000 more this year. So this dude ain't going to control us anymore. And guess what? I should send that dude a fruit basket every year, because we made $500,000 more that year, and we've been doing it ever since. So because of that, Cat, I'm $1.5 million to the positive. It's take the bad situation, get your emotions out of it, and figure out how to tactically solve the problem, and then take action to fix it. And when you can do that, and you have the right people around you that will channel your thoughts out of the emotions and into the tactical solutions, you'll get there 100 times faster. But most people in life, listen, you call your mom, you call your dad, you call the people that care about you the most, you know what they're going to do? They're going to worry about you. That don't do squat, man. It ain't going to solve the problem, and it's just going to ruin more people's days. So only call the people that aren't going to operate out of emotion, that are going to help you solve the problem.
That is life-changing advice right there, man. I remember Brendan Burchard has this line, common sense isn't always common practice. But like, when you hear that, it's like, well, that makes sense. But people, a lot of times when you think about different situations, like a lot of times it's very easy not to operate that way. You know what I mean? And it makes all the sense in the world. And it's just another reminder that maybe some of you right now are in that situation. And, it's like, get to the people where you can ask for help and they'll lock arms. All right, let's step through this. This is the environment that I hope you guys feel the harvest is, but remember, you got to be comfortable asking for help, hitting us up, you know what I mean? So we can help you grow through stuff like this, man. This is incredible, man. I got so many notes right here. I do have a question from Linda. I don't want to forget you. Can you have too many competitors following you?
Hell no. Bring them all, man. Bring them all. Listen, tell them to get their popcorn, pull up a chair. That's what I say, right? Because again, if they're paying attention to you, they can't win. And you can't be hesitant. Like, I got people on my team like, oh man, I don't want to post the pictures of this job. Then somebody will know who we're working with. Well, then you're not doing a good enough job with your customer if you're worried about somebody stealing them. If you've got a great relationship, you ain't, dude, bring it on, man. Dude, my wife's beautiful. I ain't worried about her leaving because I treat her pretty good. Right? If I did treat her good, I'd be mad at every dude that looked at her. Think about it. That's how it works. So if you have that feeling of insecurity, it's you. It's not the competitor. I got competitors, man, that try to steal our customers all the time. Differentiation creates a sticky relationship, like real differentiation. People talk about it all the time. Oh, you know, create differentiation. Dude, equipment, the length of the time your employees have worked there, anything that can be purchased is not differentiation. If I can buy it, it's not different. Think about that. But if you have real differentiation, dude, put it out there. Let them chase your customers that they can't get. They're wasting their time.
That was, man, and that just again ties back to that what is it? Number 3. You know, when your competition is so focused on digesting your content, they're not taking action. That's huge.
Dude, that is a business hack that has done very well for me.
If I was in the contracting space, I spent so much time digesting Brian Hess content, he'd be smoking my ass.
Dude, you want to hear a funny one? I said that in front of a room of contractors last week, right? That are part of Top Contractor School. And they're like, you can see some of the looks on their face like, damn, man. Like, I don't know how to take that. I'm like, yeah, stop watching. Start doing.
Yep, start producing. Don't be a consumer, be a producer. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff, man. Anybody, I know a lot of times, you know, we get a lot of good content here and it's just kind of digesting, writing notes. And if you guys have any other final questions before we sign off, I know a lot of people are in the comment section talking about how great the call was as anticipated. Yeah.
It's you know,
Oh,
best.
sorry.
I know I go to a fire. I go around the
Sorry, he just unmuted. All right, guys. Well, listen, Bri, thank you so much as always, man. This was incredible. Guys, with that being said, as I always say, don't follow Brian. I'm going to post, I already posted his video in the community, but literally watch what he just taught you as you follow his account. And it's literally video upon video of him just putting out valuable content about him, about leadership, about everything that he just said on this call. So I would highly suggest following him. Share the call, support him, man. Bri, thank you so much. And as always, guys, you guys know any contractors or anybody who you feel obviously Brian can help, we obviously know that he can definitely help them. That would be huge. Send him an intro. Bri, thank you so much, brother.
You got it. Thank you, guys. My pleasure.
Have a great week, guys.